Hey everyone, Codeth here. The patch notes just dropped for Season 4 of Diablo 4, their first public test realm ever, and I'm here to summarize them for you. So, let's starting off. April 2nd through April 9th. This is when the PTR is occurring. You need to have a PC Battle.net account to participate. So, console players or Steam users, you will not be able to participate. Okay, let's go over the itemization changes. Reduced number of affixes, 3 on Legendary, 2 on Rares. Smaller pool of more potent affixes, more relevant affixes as well. Sacred items will only drop in tier 3 and ancestrals only in tier 4. Affixes are tuned up to be punchier. Here's some new affixes that they included on this list here. We got resource per second coming in, resource on kill, lucky hit apply vulnerable, life per hit, and basic skill ranks. I didn't see anything about the affixes that they're removing, but we'll find out on the PTR when that comes out. Moving on to miscellaneous updates. Legendary items dropped from enemy 95 and up are always 925 item power. So that's pretty cool. I'm not sure if this is going to include rares. It sounds like it's just legendary items though, so we might have to still do tier 90 and up nightmare dungeons for like guaranteed rares and legendaries. But this is still a nice change here. Gems are simpler, more useful, have a much longer crafting tail. Gems now have core stats, and the more conditional bonuses have been simplified. I'm curious to see how this works. We'll check that out in the PTR. We'll be streaming that whole entire week of the PTR, so yeah, check me out on Twitch. Salvage crafting rewards have all been tuned. Significantly reduced item drop rates, less time sorting, more time slaying. This is nice, I like that. Item rerolling gold cost capped when enchanting. Material removal and consolidation. Forgotten souls can now be obtained from whispers and are now a global rare drop from elites. So more chances to get forgotten souls, more sources. Uniques appear earlier. Uniques can now start dropping in tier 1 and tier 2. All uniques can now drop in tier 3. And Uber uniques can start dropping from monster level 55, drops at 925 item power. Here's the new crafting system they debuted during the campfire chat as well. This new system will allow you to add affixes to your items at the blacksmith through a reusable item that can drop from most content in-game, called temper manuals. Let's check this out here. So here's the crafting system, as you can see. You got the item, here's the affixes. Pretty cool stuff. These are categorized like the codex, example, resource, mobility. Once gained, you retain these for unlimited use. Pretty cool. Each manual contains a handful of affixes. You're able to attach one at a time. Affixes can be rolled up to the item's temper reroll limit. Ancestral items can have 2 tempered affixes from different categories. So you can see this one right here has a 5 durability remaining. That means he can reroll it 5 times there. And here's like an example of one of the temperings that he got. This was 30% bone spirit size. So I'm really curious to see what else we have here, especially for Sorks. Really want to check that out. I'm going to be doing a lot of testing in the PTR. Greater affixes. Here's something new with itemization that's coming out as well. Only appearing on ancestral, legendary, and unique items. These are more powerful versions of normal affixes with a 1.5x multiplier on the affix's maximum roll. An item with a greater affix will be immediately obvious with a unique audio cue. It's kind of cool. As well as a 1 up to a IV, or 1 to a 4 next to the item, indicating how many affixes are greater. So you get up to 4. That's kind of cool. Example, helm, ancestral. So this would have 2 ranks on it. Each affix on an item has a chance to be greater in world tier 3 and 4. Players cannot enchant into a greater affix. They can only be found. So we're going to be on the hunt for items still. There's going to be less loot, but we're still going to be hunting items. Do not worry. And then here's another new system coming out. Instead of upgrading, it's now going to be called masterworking. And they changed it a bit. It's a late game crafting system to upgrade items using materials gathered from the pit. It improves the value of your current affixes. There are 12 upgrade ranks. Every 4 ranks a single affix is massively upgraded. So this is randomized. You don't get to choose. Other ranks slightly increase the value of all affixes. So you can see they're upgrading here. There's your materials, 50k to upgrade. And we've got Codex of Power updates. All legendary aspects now appear in the Codex of Power. A highest roll legendary use salvage is stored in your Codex. Legendary affix range increased based on normal or item tier. Normal, sacred, ancestral. Most legendary affix ranges have been increased. Curious to see how the changes here, like which ones. The UI has been revamped, now includes manual and keyword search. You can also favorite them. So here's what the Codex of Power is going to look like. You've got your all, defensive, offensive, resource and utility, mobility aspects all here. You can see it shows the item types per icon there. You got your search, your filter, keyword search, tempering recipes. Yeah, pretty exciting. Pretty exciting. And Helltide changes. We've got some Helltide changes here. So Helltide threat. As you battle through Helltides, you will generate threat. How much will be determined by the difficulty of monster and how often you are securing tortured gifts within the Helltide. Dying will reset your threat. There are 3 Helltide threat tiers, with each increasing the danger and frequency of monster ambushes. At tier 3, you'll become Hellmarked. Achieving maximum threat will initiate a brief ambush frenzy of maximum enemy density. The ambush will end with the final Hellborn spawn, an immensely powerful agent of Hell, resurrected from the tortured souls of Sanctuary's most powerful champions. There are 5 variants representing each class in Diablo 4, so kind of like the Bloodseekers, if you were participating in Season 2 AOZ. Upon activating the Hellborn ambush, your threat will reset. So here's the Helltide meter here. Check that out. Accursed Ritual. Baneful Hearts can primarily be earned through opening tortured gift chests and can be used at the Accursed Ritual location. A scene of shocking gore, the Accursed Ritual is an ultimate testament to the disturbing lengths the manic cultists will go to appease their dark wishes. It is here where you can begin the Accursed Ritual. So here's a picture of it right here. So this is going to be similar to like the seasonal stuff that we have right now, where you can summon Heralds of Malphas with elemental cores, and how you could summon the Blood Harvest from Season 2. So similar to that, but in Helltide, which is really cool. So you'll deposit 3 Baneful Hearts to begin the ritual. You'll be swarmed with dense demonic ambush. Other players will be alerted that the ritual has begun, so you'll see it when you click your map. You'll see that little the circle appearing around the location. You can run over there. This ambush will climax with the arrival of a Blood Maiden, an immensely powerful demonic creature who will offer a great award upon her death. So that's exciting. And we got World Tier 1 and 2 adjustments. So players will be able to join Helltides on Tier 1 and 2. But here's some changes that are going to be going along with that. So all the tortured gifts are mystery chests. There's going to be no roaming bosses or ambient meteors. This is just Tier 1 and 2. And less monster density overall compared to Tier 3 and 4. Alright, and then we got the Pit. Pit of Artificers. So upon entering Tier 4, you'll receive a priority quest to complete a Tier 46 Nightmare Dungeon. Upon completion, you'll begin to collect rune shards during endgame activities. Collect enough rune shard to ultimately activate the obelisk in Karagar. It's my favorite city right now. Activating the obelisk will send you to the pit. Your goal will be to slay enough monsters before the 10-minute timer runs out. Each player death removes time from the clock. First death removes 30 seconds, second removes 60, third and subsequent deaths will remove 90 seconds. So here's a picture of how it looks here. Pretty cool looking portal. Another image here. If you slay enough monsters, a portal will appear, taking you to the boss's arena. Killing the boss before the timer expires will grant you masterworking materials and unlocks the next tier of the pit. Killing the boss within 4 to 6 minutes to spare grants you additional tier unlock. Killing the boss with 6 or more minutes to spare grants you 2 additional tier unlocks, so you can progress faster. The pit has hundreds of tiers of difficulty. If the mastery timer expires before you finish running through the pit, you'll still receive loot, but you won't receive any masterworking materials. So you'll still get something. You'll still get a reward. The pit can be undertaken with groups up to 4, with the player who opened the pit receiving the lion's share of materials. Only the player who opened the pit has a chance of receiving materials used to summon tormented echoes. So you can still run this together, they just won't get as much loot. They still will get some, though. And we got boss ladder updates. Here we go. Here is Andariel. Looking really cool. Echo of Andariel joins the ladder in our Season 4 PTR. In the same bracket as her brother Duriel. The same uber unique drop rate. The mix of shadow, fire, and lightning arcanic poison attack. Andariel stands ready to face all who dare fathom her demise. Summoning parts can be acquired from Beast in the Ice and Lord Zir. Tormented echoes of all ladder bosses can be summoned with Stygian stones, obtained from deep within the pit. Stygian stones are needed along with increased amount of summoning materials, but fear not, they also drop more rewards. Those prices are going to go up. Tormented echoes will be level 200. All item dropped are going to be 925. Defeating your first Tormented Echo drops 1 Resplendent Spark as a first-time reward. So this is what you use to craft Uber Uniques. You'll get 1. You need 4 to craft one of your choice, but if you salvage 3 more after this, you can craft whatever one you want. Here's some more of the PTR details. You got campaign completion, mountain skill points, fog of war. The altars are all unlocked. You can boost to 100, 100 million gold, 1,000 obols. You get some gear, potions, fully unlocked paragon glyphs, up to 10 tempering manuals, base amount of all consumable materials. Yeah, pretty cool. I'm going to be checking this out on stream, so if you want to see that, definitely tune into my channel. That's twitchtv.codeth. Alright, then we're going to go to the class updates here. So starting off, new items. Here is that Uber Unique that's coming out for this season. It's Tyrael's Might. While at full life, your skills unleash a divine barrage, dealing damage. So they kind of look like an artillery shrine almost. Then we've got unique boots here. Yen's Blessing. Casting a skill has a 20 to 30% chance to cast a non-mobility, non-ultimate skill that is currently on cooldown. This effect can only occur once every 12 seconds. I'm curious to see what are the stats on these boots. Same for these other items as well. We can only see the unique affix. We don't have the stats here, so we'll have to check that out. Okay, we got some legendary aspects. These are 2 general ones that are going to be coming over. Aspect of Frosty Shrines. Well, below 45 to 60% life. Evade freezes close enemies for cold damage and applies vulnerable to them for 3 seconds. So this might be good for like a low life build, or just like a kind of clutch getaway. I'm not sure about this one. Aspect of Concussive Strikes is a lucky hit. Damaging an enemy has a 20% chance to daze them for 2 seconds. You'll deal 5 to 20% increased damage to dazed enemies. Alright, and on to Barbarian. We've got some unique pants here called Ariat's Bearing. Ancients you summoned are empowered. Corlic creates an earthquake that deals physical damage over 4 seconds when he leaps. Talik leaves behind dust devils that deal damage while he whirlwinds. Madoc ignites the ground, burning enemies for additional damage over 4 seconds when he upheavals the ground. Kinda cool. Twin Strikes. These ones seems pretty cool for me for like a double swing build. But after casting double swing 4 times, your next double swing will hit 2 additional times, dealing 10 to 20% increased damage. Curious to see the stats on these though. New legendary aspect for Bar. Aspect of Fierce Winds. Your shout skills create 5 dust devils that deal damage to enemies along their path. Your dust devils are 5 to 15% bigger and deal 1% increased damage for each 1% their size is increased. So we might see some dust devil builds next season. Druid's got a new item here. Here's the ring. Earthbreaker. Landslide causes the ground to erupt in tectonic spikes which continue to deal damage over 2 seconds. Casting Landslide in this area has a 20 to 30% chance to cause additional landslide pillars to spawn within. Then we got Wild Heart Hunger. These boots seem pretty cool for shapeshifting builds. So when you shapeshift into a werewolf or werebear, you gain Wild Heart for 5 seconds. Wild Heart grants you 1 to 1.5% increased damage with shapeshifting skills every 2 seconds, stacking 20 times. I'm curious to see how these are, for sure. New legendary aspect, Fevered Mauling. When you hit at least one enemy with Maul, increase its attack speed by 1 to 2%, and you gain 1 to 3% damage reduction for 5 seconds, stacking up to 5 times. Here's a Necromancer, Ebon Piercer. It's a unique amulet. Blight also shoots 4 smaller projectiles that pierce enemies and deal shadow damage over 3 seconds. Crewer's Embrace, unique gloves. Blood Surge consumes corpses to cause mini-novas, dealing damage. Damage is increased by 10% per target drained by initial cast, up to 50%. Damage is also increased by 20% of each corpse consumed. And we got Aphotic Aspect. Skeletal Priests empower your Skeletal Warriors' attacks to deal shadow damage. Have a 5 to 15% chance to stun enemies for 1.5 seconds. Seems pretty neat. Alright, we got Rogue here. I'm going to be going hardcore Rogue next season. That's going to be my hardcore character. We got this ring here. Scoundrel's Kiss. Rapid fire now lobs exploding arrows that deal 15 to 25% increased damage. This seems really fun. And then we got Saboteur's Signet. This is cool as well. Honestly, both of these rogue items seem sick. Casting Flurry has a 15 to 30% chance to release stun grenades that deal physical damage and steal enemies or stun enemies for 1 second. Your stun grenades have a 5% lucky hit chance. And we've got an aspect of High Velocity for Barrage. Your arrows will now pierce one enemy and have 10 to 20% increased attack speed. And here's my main class here, Sorcerer. You got this unique amulet. They showcased this during the dev talk. But you've got a chance to spawn 35 to 50% chance to spawn random conjuration when it explodes. Then lucky hit, your conjurations have a 70 to 100% chance to launch a frozen orb at nearby enemies. So I'm definitely going to try this out. Then we got Flame Weaver, new unique gloves. Casting Firebolt through Firewall causes it to split 4 bolts, each dealing 80 to 100% more damage. So we're gonna have to test this out, but I'm curious to see if you can stack firewalls and cast like a bolt through it and just go crazy with it, you know? We'll see, we'll see. Might crash my computer. Alright, then legendary aspects. We've got Tenuous? Aspect of Tenuous Destruction, sorry. Deal 25 to 40% increased damage while you have no defense skills on your action bar. So this means no teleport, no ice armor, no flame shield. I'm curious to see how this is going to work. We got Flamethrower's Aspect. Incinerate splits into 3 beams, dealing 70 to 85% of normal damage. Might be kind of cool to see, like visually. Alright, here's the balance updates. Banished Lord's Talisman's getting a nerf. So, from 80 to 120, down to 20 to 60. Oof. And the resource needed dropped from 300 to 275. Man, that's a... Ooh. Then we got Tabal's Will, everyone's favorite pants. I use them for a lot of my builds currently in Season 3. Damage increase while unstoppable reduced from 20 to 40 to 10 to 20. And persist for 1 second longer after being unstoppable. So yeah, nerf for Tabalt's right there. Disobedience. Legendary aspects, yeah. Disobedience getting a nerf. Armor change from 25 to 40. Currently it's going up to 66. Yeah, so that's a hefty nerf right there. Seems like they want us to use Juggernaut. And we got Assimilation. You have an 8% increased dodge chance when you dodge. Fortify for 5 to 20% of your maximum life. Retribution, stun increase 8 to 10. Now increases damage to stunned and knocked down enemies. So maybe people will start using this, at least for leveling, potentially. Inner Calm. Increased damage is still there. Triple this bonus, standing still for 3 seconds. Crowded Sage. 8% increased dodge chance. Successful dodges restore 5 to 20% of your maximum life. Bold Chieftain is now usable by both barbarians and druids. So druids are getting some of their stuff classified as shouts now. So this might be interesting. Needle Flare now also applies thorns to necromancer's minions. So here we got some miscellaneous changes here. Necro, Barb, Druid, Sorc companions now receive 100% of the player attributes. So like attack speed and crit. This is going to be fun for Conjurations builds. I'm excited for this part. Skill tags upgraded. Applicable shout skills for Druid and Barb now tagged as shouts. New chain tag. Like chain lightning. And, oh, so interesting. Might see some additional chaining for the tempering, potentially. That could be one of the temporer. New mobility tag. Sorc mastery skills now is core. It's similar to that too. Various aspect updates. Alright, so here, Barb got pretty well nerfed here. 10% innate damage reduction has been removed. Legendary powers that require Call of Ancients to be equipped no longer have that requirement. Charge damage reduction 250 to 180%. Power charge, we got some cooldown reduction changes here. Furious Hammer of Ancients, this one's gonna hurt. So previously you got this multiplicative damage for each point of fury you had while using it. Now it's gonna be increased crit chance for every 10 fury. So that's a pretty hefty nerf for Hota. Violent Rend. Rend's damage against vulnerable enemies increased. Rupture. Initial damage dealt from Rupture now guaranteed to overpower. Call of the Ancients. Slight buff here. Not too many people were using this, so they might be trying to incentivize more people using this, like with those new pants for the Barb as well. Kick. Range of damage increased. Additional damage when enemies knocked into a wall increased, so a little buff there. Damage per 10 fury consumed. Yeah, so Kick's got a little buff. Passives. Unbridled Rage. Damage reduced, so here's a nerf, 135 to 100%. Pole Arm. Not too many people use pole arms. I still think that's going to remain the case. Lucky Hit increased. Damage while healthy increased. Two-handed Mace Expertise. Now you'll deal increased critical strike damage while berserking, instead of critical strike damage to stunned and vulnerable enemies while berserking. This is pretty nice, and you got an increased fury gain as well. So maybe people might gravitate towards this as opposed to two-handed axe. Because yeah, this is two-handed axe just got nerfed, 15 to 10%. One-handed axe expertise, crit chance against injured enemies increased. And on to the Paragon here. Martial Glyph, cooldown reduction reduced, 4 to 2 seconds. Blood Rage, berserking damage bonus reduced from 25 to 10, and it caps at 30%. Yeah, I know some Barbs are going to be hurting from this. Crusher, overpower nerf here from 30 to 20. Dominate, bonus overpower damage per 5 willpower reduced from 39.9 to 14.9. Now every 30 seconds your attacks will overpower. So this is a nice change right here. They did nerf the damage though. Seething, additional bonus fury gain on enemy kill increased from 3 to 5. Okay, Aspect of Sundered Ground. Now every 25 seconds your next upheaval cast is guaranteed to overpower and deals 10 to 25% increased damage. This timer is reduced by 4 seconds when upheaval overpowers a boss or an elite. Earth Striker nerf here from 50 to 30% max. Aspect of Relentless Arms Master, Fury Generation, while all 3 walking arsenal passive bonuses are active, increased from 20 to 35 to 35 to 65. So a little buff here for the Fury Generation. Wind Slasher. Now casting Double Swing creates a Dust Devil that deals damage to enemies in its path. Triple the amount of Dust Devils created if Double Swing is cast twice within 2 seconds. So I could see Double Swing Dust Devil builds might be pretty fun. After generating 100 Fury, your next direct damage creates 3 Dust Devils that deal damage to enemies in their path. Whirlwind leaves behind Dust Devils. Yeah, more Dust Devils there. Lots of Dust Devils. Veteran Brawlers now increases the damage for charge, leap, and kick. Timer on the buff has been removed. Giant Strides now reduces the cooldown of leap per enemy hit up to a maximum of 9 seconds. Hitting a boss with leap provides a maximum cooldown reduction. Anemia. Now it's a lucky hit. Damaging, bleeding, and vulnerable enemies has a 15 to 30% chance to stun them for 2 seconds. Vocalized Empowerment. Previously Echoing Fury. So your shout skills will generate 5 to 10 primary resource per second while active. So this might be pretty cool for druids. We'll be able to utilize this aspect here and get some more primary resource. Rage of Harrogath. Lucky hit inflicting bleeding on an enemy has a 20 to 40% chance to reduce the cooldowns of your skills by 1 second. We got Azure Wrath. This is also not going to be class bound to just Barb. Rogues and Necros will be able to use it. Freezing damage increased. Can now trigger from non-core skills. Fields of Crimson. The blood pool now makes enemies take increased damage from all damage types. So overall, seemed like a nerf to the overpower build. Hoda. Charge got a bit of a nerf. Double Swing and Dust Devils seem pretty nice. Okay, on to Druid. Pack Leader. Cooldown reset chance increased from 20 to 25. Energize. Spirit Restoration increased from 10 to 20. Masochistic. Critical Strike Healing increased from 3 to 5. So a little buff to the boons there. Claw, we got a little buff here. Damage increase and attack speed increased for Enhanced Claw. Maw with a damage increase and Fortify increase. Pulverize got a stun duration buff. Shred damage buff and healing buff for Enhanced Shred. Debilitating Roar, now a shout skill. Wolves now gain Unstoppable when the skill is cast. Petrify now grants 50 spirit when cast, and its effect durations are increased by 1 second. Killing an enemy affected by Petrify reduces its cooldown by 1 second. Hitting a boss with Petrify reduces its cooldown by 10 seconds. So, little buff to Petrify there. I'm currently using it right now on my Pulverize build. Lacerate, damage increase. Lacerate heals for 3% maximum life, doubled on critical strikes. The first critical strike is guaranteed and deals 150% increased damage. Then Supreme Lacerate. Now, whenever Lacerate critically strikes, your shape-shifting skills deal 4% increased damage for 10 seconds up to 40%. So, buff to Lacerate there. Call of the Wild, increased 10 to 12%. Quick Shift. When shape-shifting into a new animal form, you deal 1% increased damage for 3 seconds up to 6%. Heightened Senses. When shape-shifting into an animal form, Werebear grants 2% damage reduction. Werewolf grants 2% movement speed, each for 6 seconds. Bonuses are doubled while both are active. Clarity. After casting a companion skill, your next core or wrath skill's damage and critical strike chance are increased by 5% up to 15%. So Druid's got some nice little buffs here. Movement speed increased for Jitigrade Gate. Legendary aspects. So Changeling's debt is changing. Now you'll deal 25 to 40% increased damage while hitting a poisoned enemy as a werebear or a crowd-controlled enemy as a werewolf. So you just have to hit them as a werebear or crowd-controlled as a werewolf. Yeah. Then of the Insatiated. Now after killing an enemy with Shred, you gain 20 spirit. Your werewolf skills deal 10 to 25% increased damage when cast above 50 spirit. Blurred Beast, damage increase here slightly on the max. Night Howler, Blood Howl is now a shout skill and increases crit chance by 5 to 10%. In addition, Blood Howl will also affect nearby companions and players for 3 seconds. So yeah, that's pretty interesting here. With that new aspect, or the barbarian aspect that Druid's going to be getting access to, might work well with Blood Howl. Raw Might, now all shapeshifting skills contribute to buff stacks. Damage increased slightly here. Stun duration increased. So buff for Raw Might. Shepherds. Now wrath skills can gain increased damage from companions. Mangled. While in werebear form, you gain 10 to 25 spirit every 8 seconds. So this is kind of cool. You can do a lot more builds now, dropping your basic ability. Like, I'm thinking Pulverize with this, potentially. Mending Stone. Killing an enemy with any skill now replenishes the barrier as well as their skills. Vocalized Empowerment. Previously Echoing Fury. So here's the primary resource right here. This paired with Blood Hell might be pretty cool. Flesh Render buffs. Damage bonus increased. Casting defensive skill deals damage to nearby poisoned enemies. Increased by 15% for every 100 willpower you have. So instead of using only Debilitating Roar or Blood Howl to deal damage, you could just cast a defensive skill to deal damage. Onto the Paragon here. Tracker. We got a Poison Duration buff here. Bane. Poison effect double damage chance increased. 10 to 15%. Shapeshifter. Crit chance increasing. 20 to 25. Wild's Glyph. Damage increased. To 120 to 130. Inner Beast Legendary Node. Now after shapeshifting, your spirit costs are reduced by 5% for 10 seconds, up to 45%. If you reach 10 stacks, this bonus resets and reduces the cooldown of your ultimate skills by 5 seconds. Seems pretty interesting. Okay, then on to the Necromancer. Well, overall, Druid's got some nice buffs here. Yeah, Druid's one of my favorite classes as well. Definitely looking forward to the Druid for the next season. Now on to the Necromancer. Enhanced Blight. Tooltip now displays correctly. Blood Mist. Remove the movement speed reduction. Kind of cool for our Infinimist builds out there. Golem ability can now be activated while crowd controlled. Activating this ability makes the player unstoppable. So Necros are getting a unstoppable here with the Golem. So you won't only be funneled into Blood Mist for unstoppable. You can use Golem now too. So this is good for these summoners. Summoner's going to be like pretty fun this season, I feel. Decompose. Interval reduced 1.5 to 1 second. Increased channeling essence generated. Upgrades now active when spawning corpses instead of channeling for 1 second. Now also generates 10 essence when creating a corpse. Decompose explosions makes enemies vulnerable, so you got a source of vulnerable here. Movement speed bonus now on Decompose explosions instead of channeling. So, slight buff here. Army of the Dead. Increased spawn rate of volatile skeletons by 50%. Supreme Army of the Dead spawn rate adjusted to match volatile skeletons. Now categorized as a summoning skill, so might see some more people taking this now. Passive Inspiring Leader. Now while you're healthy, you gain increased crit chance and your minions gain increased crit chance. So instead of attack speed, you're getting crit chance. Kind of cool. Callan's Edict. Your minions gain attack speed for each active minion. Instead of not taking damage for 2 seconds, right? Now just have increased attack speed. Book of the Dead changes. Okay, so we got a lot of summoning changes here. Some changes to the AI. Skeletal Warriors will now run ahead of the Necromancer more often and can initiate combat. Skirmishers removed 3-second limit from the second upgrade. Wind up attacks for Reapers now reduce one of your active cooldowns by 3 seconds. Defenders now taunts in the area around them instead of negating damage every 6 seconds for the first upgrade. Change functionality from Thorn's upgrade instead to take 99% reduced damage from the second upgrade. Shadow Mages can now pierce, and they deal increased damage for each active Shadow Mage. 3% multiplicative. Additional Shadow Bolt now occurs every second attack after the second upgrade. Cold Mages now gain 3 essence from the first upgrade. Attacks now apply vulnerable without condition. So you got a source of vulnerable here with your Cold Mages. Pretty cool. Bone Mages. Now Bone Mages have a 25% chance to cast Bone Splinters or Bone Spear if it is on your equipped skills. Bone Mages drop a corpse when they die. Bone Mage attacks will grant 3% maximum life as Fortify. And we got some Golem changes here. Blood Golem now absorbs 30%, up from 50%. Second upgrade active ability from Golem also heals the player for 5% of maximum life for each enemy drained. Now we got Bone Golem. Spawns 5 corpses around the Golem, where its ability is used for the first upgrade. Second upgrade, your Bone Golem unleashes Bone Spikes when taking damage. Then we got changes to the Iron Golem here. Now cast Shockwave every 2 attacks instead of 4. Shockwave damage increased. That's a huge increase right there. And then the second upgrade now also pulls enemies instead of applying vulnerable. So kind of like that Druid ring that you get from Varshan when you use your ultimate pulls in enemies. It'll be similar to that. But yeah, overall, nice minion upgrades to the Necro. I'm going to be curious to see how those work. Blood Soaked, now in Bloodlet's form, increased movement speed by 20%. Unyielding Commander, while Army of the Dead is active, your minions deal increased damage and take reduced damage. So instead of attack speed, it's going over to damage instead. So that's going to be juicy. Occult Dominion increases maximum number of Skeletal Warriors by 2. Blood Getters. Your Skeletal Priests also empower you at 55 to 70% effectiveness. Flesh Rending. When Decompose explodes, gain Essence. Rotting. Decompose can chain and burst up to 2 additional targets. Explosions from Decompose deal increased damage. Of the Damned. You'll deal increased shadow damage to enemies afflicted by any curse. Untimely Death. After each percent of your maximum life, you heal beyond 100%, grants you 0.5% X bonus critical strike damage on your next critical strike, up to 30 to 60% X. Potent Blood. After blood orbs grant essence. So instead of they took out the while healthy part here. Ring of Mendel, and this seems pretty sick. So instead of it being a lucky hit, they took that out. So it's every 6 attack from each minion is empowered, exploding for physical damage. This seems pretty cool. Paragon changes here. We got changes to the control glyph. Additional bonus. You and your minions deal 20% X increased damage to crowd-controlled targets. So instead of just stunned or frozen, you got that. And this is like slowed or chilled or stunned or frozen. Yeah, this is way better. I'm assuming this is going for the Sork as well, maybe? Because we also have control. We'll have to see when we get down there. Dead Riser Glyph. Additional bonus maximum buffed to 15%. Cult Leader Paragon Node. Your minions deal 30% X increased damage for each 20% X attack speed bonus they have, up to a maximum of 100% attack speed bonus. So lots of minion buffs here, and buffs to Shadow. I saw some buffs to like some blood skills too. Rogue. Stun grenades. Base stun duration increased from 0.5 to 1 second. Inner Sight. While the Inner Sight gauge is full, you gain 25% critical strike chance for 4 seconds. Attacking enemies that are not marked will fill the gauge, but at 5% of the normal rate. Preparation. Reduced energy requirement from 100 to 75. Flurry is getting a little buff here, 66 to 75. Volley can be cancelled slightly earlier from another skill. Okay, we got some passives here. Victimize. Increased chance to proc, 45 to 50%. That fixed an issue that it wasn't activating and scaling from certain instances. Okay, that's it for the passives. On to the Paragon. Exploit Weakness. Legendary Node. Maximum increased damage buffed, 15 to 25. Leirana's Instinct Legendary Node. When Inner Sight's gauge becomes full, you gain 100% dodge chance for 2 seconds. Your core skills deal increased damage equal to 25% of your core skill damage bonus, while Inner Sight gauges remain full. We got the Chip Glyph here, increased physical damage from 6.6 to 9.9%. Encircling Blades, damage increased. Oh, here's aspects. Aspect of Encircling Blades. Increased damage range buffed from 10 to 25, from 15 to 30. So slight buff there on the upper range, nerf on the lower range. So I think they kind of widened it a bit. Wait, no, I take that back. No. They buffed it by 5. Opportunists. Now when you enter or break stealth, you drop a cluster of exploding stun grenades around you that deal physical damage and stun enemies for 1 second. Grenade skills deal 25 to 40% more damage. Tricksters now additionally increase grenade skill damage by 25 to 40. Of surprise increases grenade skill damage 25 to 40. Artful initiative grenade skill damage is now a range. Wait, increases. Grenade skill damage increase is now a range with a higher potential. Increased to 25 to 40. There we go. We got there. So buffs to grenade. Lots of buffs to grenade. Uncanny Treachery. Dealing damage to a dazed enemy with agility skill grants stealth for 4 seconds. When stealth breaks, you gain 85 to 100% dodge chance. That's kind of crazy. 100% dodge for 2 seconds. It's cool. Siphoned Victuals. Damaging a vulnerable enemy with a non-basic skill has a 5 to 20% chance to drop a healing potion. Frostbitten. Enemies hit by your grenade skills have the same chance as your critical strike chance to be frozen for 2 seconds. You'll deal 10 to 25% increased critical strike damage to stunned or frozen enemies. This seems pretty cool. I'm toying with the idea around with like a ranged with grenade, like a frost rogue for hardcore next season. Escape Artists. Smoke grenade dodge effect cooldown is reduced. Quickening Fog. Maximum dash cooldown reduction reduced to from 5. Volatile Shadows. Now when Dark Shroud Shadow is removed, you trigger an explosion around yourself that deals shadow damage. Apply shadow imbuement to each enemy it hits. So another way to apply shadow imbuement. It's cool. Blast Trappers. Lucky hits. Dealing damage to enemies affected by your trap skills has a 15 to 30% chance to cause an explosion that deals shadow damage and applies to vulnerable for 2 seconds. And we got of Lethal Dusk. Now evading through an enemy infected by shadow imbuement grants stealth for 4 seconds. Breaking stealth grants you 10 to 25% maximum life. And we got Vengeful. Lucky hit damaging a vulnerable enemy has a 25% chance to create an arrow storm at the location, dealing physical damage over 3 seconds. Your arrow storm deals 25 to 40% more damage. Here's Arrow Storms, another lucky hit ability here. Your marksman skills have a 35 or 36% chance to create an arrow storm at the enemy's location, dealing physical damage over 3 seconds. Your arrow storm deals 25 to 40% increased damage. Unique items. Writhing Band of Trickery, reduced cooldown from 10 to 6 seconds. Alright, so overall, Rogue's getting some cool changes to Flurry and Grenade, it seemed like. Really cool. Sorcerer, mastery skills are now considered core skills. Enchantments, Frost Nova, chance for conjuration skills to cast Frost Nova, increased 35 or 30 to 35. Frostbolt enchant, chill amount increased 15 to 18. Flame Shield. Now Flame Shield automatically activates after cumulatively losing 100% maximum life. Can only happen once every 30 seconds. Alright, on to the skills. Frozen Orb. This one's going to be fun. Travel distance is now controllable. Damage increased by 20%. Now, while healthy, the explosion in Frozen Orb deals 45% increased damage. Instead of just above mana, dealing increased damage to elites and lower damage to all other enemies. Greater Frozen Orb, vulnerable chance buffed 30 to 40%, and duration buff 2 to 3 seconds. Ice Armor. This one seems really cool. Enhanced Ice Armor. Mana regeneration increased from 25 to 30. Shimmering. Now while Ice Armor is active, your cooldown, or you reduce its cooldown by 2 seconds for every 50 mana you spend. So I'm wondering if there's going to be a way to make Ice Armor like almost permanent with this. We'll see. Mystical Ice Armor. Now while Ice Armor is active, you periodically chill close enemies for 20% and deal 15% increased damage to frozen enemies. pretty nice for ice builds here. I'm digging it. I like the changes here. Frost Nova. Now Frost Nova grants dodge chance per enemy hit. Hitting a boss gives a maximum amount. For the next 8 seconds, you keep this effect, and successful dodges generate 20 mana. It's a nice change for Frost Nova there. There's that Flame Shield change. Now grants a 50% larger burn radius, so no longer movement speed. Instead of mana cost reduction, after Flame Shield ends, surrounding enemies are stunned for 3 seconds. And your next skill within 10 seconds is guaranteed to crit. Kinda cool. We got changes to teleport here. Now you'll gain movement speed for 3 seconds after teleporting. This one right here, this is going to be moving over to an aspect. I think it's a bounding conduit. So they're kind of switching from the upgraded skill to the aspect. They're switching them around. Mystical teleport. Teleport now deals 500% increased damage. Also forms crackling energy for each enemy it hits. Supreme Deep Freeze. Now applies vulnerable for 5 seconds when it ends. Ice Shard, little buff here. Damage and ricochet chance increase. Hydra buff. Maximum baseline increase from 1 to 2 Hydras. Lightning Spear, damage increase by 8%. Charged Bolt, damage increase 25 to 35. Incinerate, new functionality. Gain 15% baseline damage reduction while channeling. So it's going to be a little bit better for you to stand still and like tank those shots, you know, because you're kind of vulnerable when you're channeling, right? Also got a damage increase here. Elemental Attunement, cooldown reset chance increased 5 to 7%. I like it. Damage reduction increased by 1% here, 7 to 8. Devouring Blaze, this one's pretty huge. Crowd controlled enemies now provide the damage bonus instead of immobilized. So it only has to be crowd controlled now. They don't have to be immobilized. So think of like chilled enemies with like a frost build. Yeah, so Devouring Blaze is going to work for you over there. Conjuration Mastery. Used to be just 1% increased damage for each active conjuration. Now you gain 1% increased damage, 1% increased movement speed, 2% mana generation for each active conjuration. So buff for the Conjuration Mastery there. Convulsions, a lucky hit chance increased 3 to 5. Shocking Impact, damage increased 100%. Elemental Dominance, damage increased 3 to 4%. Here's that teleport change we talked about earlier about the aspect and the upgraded skill swapping places. Frozen Orbit, damage increased 35 to 40 to 45 to 60. Concentration, now casting Conjuration skill grants you damage reduction for 5 seconds. 10 to 25%, not bad. Abundant Energy, chance to chain to additional enemy increased. Snow Guard's got a buff here. I was using this in AOZ. Snow Guard's the one where you stand in your blizzard. You get damage reduction. So that's nice to see. Singed Extremities, now both immobilize and stun trigger the slow effect. Conflagration. Now while channeling Incinerate, your burning damage is increased by 25 to 40%. Enemies hit by Incinerate explode, burning all surrounding enemies for over 6 seconds. This effect occurs once every 3 seconds. Incinerate might be pretty fun. I'm curious to see how this is going to play out. Splintering Energy, casting Lightning Spear always spawns an additional Lightning Spear and increases your damage with lightning skills. Shattered, enemies no longer need to die while frozen to trigger the bonus damage. Damage increased from 25 to 40 to 30 to 50. Staff of Lamessen, or Liam Neeson. Damage to close enemies replaced with the ranks of charged bolts. Alright, Paragon. Tactician, new functionality. Now lasts 4 seconds longer for each defensive skill not on your action bar. Winter damage increase. So 15 to 80%. So overall, Sork seems like some pretty good changes. We got some Conjuration buffs. Some Frozen Orb buffs. Incinerate buffs. I didn't really see any nerfs there. Loot updates. All items dropped in World Tier 3 and 4 being Sacred. Tier 4 will be Ancestral. Item rarity chances have been adjusted. After level 28, majority, 80%, of gear dropped that is not legendary will be rare. So less blue items after level 28. Additionally, chances to drop legendary items now scales more after reaching level 50. Item power now increases every 5 levels after 50, instead of on a linear scale. Elixir updates. All weak, strong, and potent elixirs have been removed and replaced with the following more powerful versions, which are available at level 50. So these are all the same elixirs. I won't go over them, but these are some new ones here. Elixir of Holy Bolts. After killing an enemy, Holy Bolts fire from the corpse of that enemy. Experience gain increased to 6%. And Elixir of Momentum. We're getting a movement speed elixir here. So after killing an enemy, increase movement speed by 3% for 5 seconds. This effect stacks up to 15 times. Experience gain increased by 6%. And we got some user interface and experience updates here. We got the camera zoom that's coming out. You'll be able to enable that. We can drop items with control-click on keyboard. You can search your stash based on item power. Miscellaneous changes. Yeah, some cool stuff here. Trials. Players who earn Steel of the Worthy from the Gauntlet will now have a 100% chance of being rewarded a unique item. That's kind of cool. Motorlock chests. My whole time playing Diablo 4, from pre-season until now, I've got 2 of these chests. And the rewards were pretty bad. So this is a cool change. You get 500 obols from it. And here's the Nightmare Dungeon rotation. Pretty sweet. Belfry. We've got Jalal's, Sarat's, Champ's Demise, Dead Man's Dredge. Hollowed Ossuary was good for glyph leveling. Mercy's Reach. Blind Burrows, Goa Ruins. Leviathan's Maw was decent. Deserted Underpass, Sirocco Caverns, Older's Cave, Broken Bulwark, Alderwood, Flooded Depths. Yeah, we got some good ones here. Mariner's Refuge, Carrion Fields. Yeah, we got some good Nightmare Dungeons for this season coming up. And yeah, some other miscellaneous changes and bug fixes too. Experience rewards from completing dungeon events have been increased. More skills will now appear more visually powerful as the skill gains power. Additionally, existing visual scaling has been improved. So that's going to be interesting to see as well. Bug fixes, a lot of stuff with the screen reader here. Gameplay. Some barb stuff here. Fixed an issue where the rumble glyph did not fully give bonus damage to all earthquake effects. Yeah, some more miscellaneous changes here and bug fixes. I'll let you guys go over that. I'll leave a link in the description below. But yeah, really cool stuff. I'm excited to test this out. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and yeah, check me out on Twitch sometime. Take care. Peace.